welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And on today's show, we are going to discuss a possible trade that the Panthers could make to bolster the defense. We're going to be talking about Roquan Smith, linebacker for the Chicago Bears. He has officially requested a trade. Says that the Bears have not offered him the type of contract he feels he deserves. So, Jerry, should the Panthers bolster their linebacking core by going out and getting Roquan Smith?
Honestly, when I first heard this, I was like, first they're gonna want a lot for him. A former 8th overall pick, I know his name, you know his name. I mean, he was supposed to be gangbusters. And from what I'm hearing, the contract they offered is backloaded. It's kind of a weaker deal. So I thought, no, he's going to want way too much, and I don't know. But looking at it, it depends on the compensation you're going to have to give up. Yeah. Because I don't know if he's going to really fetch that first-round pick that I originally thought he was going to.
Yeah, he had a bit of a down year last year. The whole Bears defense did really. So I wouldn't look too much into that, but it may help from a negotiation standpoint to try to get him for less than a first-round pick.
Correct. Right? The thing is, when he came out of college, I thought he was supposed to be a sack master, and he has 14 sacks for his 4-year career. I mean, 3 last year, 4 the year before. I mean, let's not, he is
he's
master.
A linebacker, right?
He is a linebacker.
He's not going to rack up tons of sacks. He's not rushing the quarterback every down, but he is very good in coverage. He's a really good coverage linebacker, which the Panthers could use. That's sort of, since Kuechly left, we haven't really had a really good linebacker, in coverage. The one thing about him, now, assuming that the compensation to trade for him is manageable, right? I mean, I would expect like at least a second-round pick.
Yes.
Probably more. But I think you're right. I think you could probably get him and not have to include a first-round pick. But the contract that you're going to have to give him is probably going to be one of like the top 5 linebacker contracts in the league. Whether you think he's a top 5 linebacker or not, his contract's coming up. He's a very good linebacker. He's probably a top 10 linebacker at worst. But you're probably going to have to pay him. SpotRack has his market value at $17.6 million a year. So figure $18 million a year. That's like a 5-year, $90 million contract. So that's a lot of money. You and I were kind of talking offline a little earlier. The Panthers cap situation next year, doesn't look great. I think right now we're like 30 million in the hole. So that's not great. That's worse than I thought it was when you first mentioned it. I went and looked. Of course, the cap can always be manipulated. That I don't think I don't think they wouldn't make the trade because they don't think they can afford him on a contract, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think they should go for it. I think, it's we're looking at what, like Damian Wilson,
Corey Littleton, Frankie Louvu. I mean, those are going to be the guys.
Like just middle linebacker. Like right now on what the depth chart looks like is Damian Wilson, Julian Stanford, and Kamal Martin for middle linebacker. That's what the depth chart is saying. Roquan Smith is a major upgrade from those guys, right?
He is a major upgrade from those guys, especially in coverage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need a better run defense, and he's not good against the run. I'm looking through his seasons. PFF has him like 30 last year, 39 the year before. 2019, he had a 53, and that's mediocre. So,
well, it's average.
Average.
Yeah.
But
I think
it
scores, which,
can be manipulated.
Yeah.
I understand, especially with him. I believe Chicago runs a lot of 3-4, if I'm correct. I think if you could get him for a second-round pick And you would have to give up like Robbie Anderson or something like that. They're desperate for receiving help as they have injuries and their receiving core itself just wasn't that great to begin with. I would say you could do it, but man, that's a high risk, high reward type of contract
Is it
for.
really that high risk though?
I mean,
He's a good player.
he gets a lot of tackles.
I mean, he's a good player. I don't think the risk is that high.
I
I
see.
think
You say he's a good
you're
player.
just having to commit.
The more I'm looking at his stats and everything, he's a good tackling linebacker, which is something we do need. But I don't know about $90 million for 5 years for him.
That's what
I know that's a
linebacker
growing rate. That's what I'm saying
Yeah.
though is
Yeah.
that's a lot.
What are the other options? I mean, the other option is going into the season with what we have, which isn't great.
Well,
You and I have talked ad nauseum about how the linebacking core might be the weakest on the team.
oh,
And it's certainly
absolutely.
one of the weakest we've seen in many years for a Panthers team, right? There's no star really. I mean, Shaq is good, but he's not a guy people are game planning against. I don't know that Roquan Smith is a guy that people are game planning against, but I think the combination of Shaq and Roquan Smith would be formidable, very formidable. I think that immediately would raise our linebacking core into like maybe a top 10 linebacking core in the league with those guys, and then add Frankie Louvu in there. I think that really becomes a really good core. So I think this is a good move to make if the Panthers can get it done. But he's going to be in demand. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams going after him.
And here's my second question: if you give up, we're saying second because there's
Yeah.
the number one is going to be off the table. Then you're
Yeah,
going to
I
be in
wouldn't
the
trade him
same
first.
then you're going to be in the same situation you were last year, where you don't have a second and third. That you're going with a first, fourth, fifth, and sixth, picks.
Well, until they make more picks, which they did this year, they manufactured more picks. That doesn't concern me. If you're telling me that I can get a linebacker of Roquan Smith's value in the second round, I mean, I'm taking that every time. Even if I do have to pay him, I think that's worth the second round pick. And if you could get rid of Robbie Anderson's contract at the same time, I think that's a win-win.
I think Robbie Anderson should be on the trade option because of that contract. Because even though he's having a good camp, I just think getting rid of that, overall contract, and you're getting something in return for it, and you're giving the young guys a chance here. Because I think Robbie Anderson's a one-trick pony. He had that one season. I don't see him having another breakout season. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong if he's in a Panther uniform, but
Yeah.
I don't see the
think
determination from him that others I've seen.
if he put as much time and effort into football as he does changing his name back and forth, I think he'd be a really good receiver. But I actually think he'll have a good season. I think with a competent quarterback behind center in Baker Mayfield, I think Robbie Anderson will have another 1,000-yard season, which would be worth his contract. I mean, that would be great. But I would rather have a stud linebacker than a pretty good number 2 receiver. And that also gives us the opportunity to get, Terrace Marshall out there, Higgins out there more. I mean, we already have too many receivers that we like. I mean, getting rid of Robbie Anderson would actually be pretty good.
Well, like we were discussing before, I don't know if this was on the air or not. I mean, we're going to cut a good receiver this year.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they're not going to be like number one overall receiver, but I'm saying we're going to have to cut a decent receiver, whether it's, Brandon Zylstra, Shi Smith, CJ Saunders. One of those guys is going to probably get the axe. And I feel like all of them deserve a roster spot on an NFL team.
Well, so CJ Saunders just got hurt. I think he's out for like a month. So that could cause him to not make the team. Or I don't know. I guess they could put him on some sort of injured reserve or something, or injured list. I'm not sure how that works really, in terms of roster spots. But yeah, he got hurt yesterday.
I saw he got injured. I didn't hear it was a serious injury. I heard he walked off the field.
No, that's what I saw this morning, was that he's going to miss a few weeks.
I'm trying to look it up right now.
It's great podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheena Quick, CJ Saunders expected to miss at least 3 weeks with what appears to be a quad injury. Ian Thomas expected to miss at least 2 weeks.
Yeah. I saw, injury bug kind of hit us hard yesterday. But I 3 weeks, he's going to be back right at the beginning of the season. So
if he makes the team,
if he makes the team,
all 3 preseason games where these other guys are going to be able to get out there and making plays. I mean, he was already a guy who was having a good camp, but not one of those guys that you're saying is bar none, no brainer making the roster, right?
Correct. And I think if you made that,
it's not going to help him.
Yeah, no. But back to Roquan Smith, I think he's a good linebacker. I think he may be more of a name recognition. Like I said, he seems like a tackling machine, which is something we do need since Luke Kuechly just retired. We haven't really had that. And Shaq,
well, look, I mean, he's really good in college. You go to a different defensive scheme. Phil Snow is a very good coach. We have a very good secondary. We have, good players on the defensive line. Like, I think adding him, you could maybe unlock that next level of his, especially being around kind of a veteran defense, really. I mean, there's some young players, but there's some really good veterans on this team as well. I don't know. I think he's better than you're giving him credit for. I mean, I know his PFF stats don't look great, but, if you look at like the top 10 linebacker rankings on pretty much any website, he's right there. He's in the top 7 or 8 on every non-PFF website. So people really like Roquan Smith. And again, the tackling number is there. Like he's making plays. But yeah, I mean, upon looking at his PFF stats earlier today, I was a little underwhelmed as well. But I started looking at different points of view, and it seems like he is worth it, I think.
I don't know. I would love to bolster this linebacking core, but I'm also afraid of hampering your cap situation and hampering your draft capital for next year, especially because we don't know what the future is going to hold. I mean, I hate saying that, but let's be real. With this tough schedule, Matt Rule on the hot seat, I think we can make the playoffs, and I think Roquan Smith would help with that because that is the weakest part of this team, in my opinion, is the linebacking core.
Let me ask you this. In what scenario would having Roquan Smith on this team next year be a negative?
When
assuming he stays healthy and
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Would it be a negative? I think just the cap situation. I know caps can be finagled. And then, like I said, you're also negative. Both quarterbacks suck this year. Hypothetically, both quarterbacks suck this year. We gave up a second for them, so we have one top pick, say 8 again. Yeah. And that's all we've got. 8 and then a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders. So that's what we're going to deal with. We have no quarterback under contract besides Matt Corral. We're probably going to have a new coach, a whole new system. So you're going to force a coach to kind of come in behind the 8 ball. And coaches don't like to come in behind the 8 ball. So you're going to have to go out and overspend like, he did or Tepper did already. Or, you're going to get the second tier coaches. You're not going to get that top coach that you really want.
I don't know that having Roquan Smith on the team would make a coach not want to come here. I mean, I understand what you're saying in terms of cap space and, not a lot of draft picks and all that. But assuming both quarterbacks suck, I think 8th is probably the lowest pick that we would have. I think it would probably be, a top 5 pick if they're both really bad. I think it would be a top 5 pick. And then you get a new coach that comes in and he gets to draft his quarterback, because this is a very deep quarterback class coming up.
It is a deep quarterback class.
You're going to be able to get a quarterback even with the 8th pick. You're going to be able to get one of the top probably 3 or 4 quarterbacks. So I wouldn't say I can't see a scenario outside of having to pay him $18 million a year where bringing him in is a negative. Even if we have to give up a second and a 4th, or a second and a 5th, or a second and Robbie Anderson, or however that works. Draft picks, teams have proven that draft picks are not that big of a deal. Teams are winning Super Bowls and not having first round draft picks for 7 or 8 years in a row.
The Rams are the exception.
It's a strategy. That's all I'm saying. It's a strategy that has been proven to work. And the cap can be manipulated. We see it every year. What was it? The Saints or somebody were like $70 million
over the cap. And then they started making a deal for Deshaun Watson. They cleared that cap in a heartbeat. So
yeah, they now they've got plenty of cap space. So it's the cap is just a joke. You never like to be going into a season where you have to make those moves, because you're basically just kicking the can down the road. But if you're kicking the can down the road every single year, then you don't have to ever worry about the can. It's never going to come get you, because you just keep kicking it. So, and the cap keeps going up. So, it works out. But, bottom line for me, I say go for it. If it's not a first round pick, I don't really care what they have to trade to get him. Give him the contract. The linebacking core right now that we have is not good. This would make it good. And that's one of the least effective parts of the team right now. And you make that part affected, all of a sudden this defense looks really scary.
If it can stop the run.
If it can stop the run, which I think it can. I think it can. If you can shut down the pass with your secondary and a good coverage middle linebacker and force teams to run, then you can focus on the run. It's they go hand in hand.
We'll see. It didn't seem like we were able to stop the run when we were stopping the pass last year. So I have a little.
We're the number 2 defense in the whole league last year, Jerry. Did you know that?
Yeah, because the pass defense was great, but the run defense sucked, so they just ran the ball down us. Did you know we lost 10 games that we led? 10 games that we led, and then we gave up the game. The number 2 team lost 6 games that they led.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know a lot of that is our offense could not stay on the field, and our defense just wore down. And that could be part of the run defense problem, but that's rough.
Also, the second half adjustments were just trash all year.
Oh yeah, I'm really hoping that Ben McAdoo could make those adjustments on offense.
Yeah,
and Phil Snow, I hope you know how to do it this year, because you didn't do it last year.
Agreed. So what's your bottom line? Do you think, should the Panthers go after him? Yes or no?
I think they should definitely make a call. See what
we know they're making a call.
I would say for a second rounder, even though I have my reservations, you make the deal. Second rounder, Robbie Anderson, make the deal.
Second rounder, third rounder.
Well, we don't have a third rounder.
Second rounder next year, third rounder 2024.
Maybe. It would depend on the contract that you're signing him to then.
Assuming that he gets the 5 years, $90 million, which is, he's going to get at least that. I still think you do it.
I think you would too. Maybe try to get a 4th, like the next year's 4th or something like that, because that's a lot.
Yeah, you can do a
Robbie
second
Anderson,
and a third, and you can
again,
get a
Robbie
4th
Anderson is a $10 million cap hit and $21 million next year. Next year is going to be difficult, but that wouldn't be that bad to cut him or extend him. And let's be honest, with the receiver market now, everything's out the window. I mean, it is insane right now for the receivers.
That's true. That's true. I mean, and if you get rid of Robbie Anderson, then you're really hoping that Marshall steps up.
Yeah.
You're really hoping that, Zylstra or Kirkwood or Saunders or Shi Smith
Or Higgins.
that one of them becomes, a legitimate threat. Because if not, then we're in a really bad shape. I mean, nothing else. We at least know that Robbie Anderson can draw some defensive coverage when he's going downfield.
Correct.
These other guys, we don't know what they can do.
So. And we'll see also what the tight ends can do this year with, a offensive coordinator that actually likes to throw to them and have them run routes.
Yeah. Well, I hope that Tommy Trimble steps up. That's all I'll say.
I know. But I'm just saying, I expect our tight ends, one of them to start looking more like a tight end that you like, because you just assume that it's all them being bad. I really think it was a lot of coordinator scheming.
I assume Ian Thomas is bad because I've seen him with multiple coaches and multiple coordinators now, and he's not been good with any of them. So I think I'm fair having that opinion.
I mean, he only had a chance, his 1 year with Ron Rivera? Because he was backing up Greg Olsen other years, so...
Yeah, right. When has he been good, though?
I mean, he hasn't been good. I mean, I agree, that contract was awful,
How many years
but...
has he been in the league now? He hasn't been good.
4?
Okay.
All right.
Maybe fifth year. Fifth year's the charm. He'll get it this year. I hope he does, honestly. All right. Go ahead. I think we're done.
No, I'm good.
All right.
All right. You got any last words?
Nope. Go get him. That's
all right. We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show.
We'll be back on Friday to preview the first preseason game and to sort of give a camp wrap-up. Jerry and I will be appearing on the 32 Fans podcast tonight. I'm not sure when that podcast is going to come out, but we're going to preview the Panthers 2022 season on that podcast, so check that out. And we'll remind you guys whenever that does drop. But until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.